Eric Hawkins to resign. That's the first line of a letter penned yesterday by our next guest. He is Albany County Legislator Frank Mauriello. He joins us live to discuss right here on WGY Mornings. Frank, good morning.
Good morning, Doug. Thank you for having me on.
I don't think you did this lightly. I don't think it, makes you proud to do this sort of thing. But I think you see what a lot of us have seen in Albany, especially over the last couple of weeks. And you say to yourself, something's got to be done. And for you, that is that Eric Hawkins has to go.
Absolutely. I do think it's time for Chief Eric Hawkins to resign. And you're right. We don't take this lightly. This is something we've been thinking about for a while. You realize Albany is less safe than it was when he first took the job. Rape is up 21%. Robbery is up. Assaults and violent crimes are higher than they've been historically. Major shootings like the ones on Delaware Avenue or in the Pine Hills have become the norm. And the last time I was on your show, we discussed the rape of that 15-year-old girl. The rapist of that report was not released for a good month, and the rapist was free, roaming the streets of Albany in the Capital District for a month. The saddest part of all this is that the rank-and-file police officers in the Albany Police Department want to do their job. They are not to blame for this crisis. You have to blame the chief and the city hall politicians who won't let them do their job. 2 weeks ago, I did a ride-along with the Albany County Sheriff's Department in downtown Albany. And it was very interesting. What I found was the Albany County Sheriff's Department does proactive policing. Sheriff Craig Apple won this national award as the Sheriff of the Year nationally because of his work in Albany County. And that just bleeds down to his deputies. With proactive policing, what they do is they'll drive through an area like we're in Arbor Hill, and they'll look at people, they'll analyze people. They've been trained to look at their mannerisms, at their facial expressions, their body language, how they ride a bike, how they walk, how they drive. And if they see something suspicious, they engage that person. They'll talk to them. And because of this, they've found illegal guns. They found drugs. Where the whole time we were out there with 4 or 5 different sheriff's patrol cars. And any time one of those deputies was to engage someone, he'd get a backup. There'd be at least 2 other sheriff's cars that would pull up and back him up. And that whole night, I was out there for about 2.5 hours. We saw 1 Albany patrol car. That was it, just one. And based on the information we're given, police under Chief Hawkins and Mayor Sheehan aren't allowed to proactively police, in that they're not allowed to stop drivers and stop traffic. People wonder why the city is unsafe. It's because all the police are doing in Albany is taking calls. They're not proactively going out there and policing their community. Now, people may wonder why a county legislator from the suburbs would be interested in the city of Albany. Well, you have to realize that I live in Colony, Guilderland, Bethlehem. We all border the city of Albany. And that riffraff bleeds into our community. Look at all the problems Guilderland has had at Crossgates. Those crimes that are committed at Crossgates are not committed by Guilderland residents.
Well, first of all, Frank, you're an Albany County legislator. I guess the key word there would be Albany, number one. Number two, we're all Albany. I live in Niskayuna. Zach, my producer, his girlfriend lives and works right in Albany. We all would do better if Albany was doing better. But what we heard this week is from the chief, hey, if you guys are going to have a large gathering, a barbecue, could you give us a heads up? We're supposed to call 911 to say, hey, I'm going to have some friends over. This is the kind of craziness that we got going on.
Yeah, what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to cancel large gatherings like Alive at 5 or Lark Fest or the Tulip Fest. No, that's coming from someone who's lost it. He has no idea what to do, and that's very unfortunate. I think Mayor Sheehan is just as much to blame as he is, but he's following her direction. But he's the professional. He's the professional police officer. He knows what needs to be done to clean up the city and keep order in the city. And he needs to stand up to her and he needs to say, look, we're having problems here. Things are getting worse. This is what we need to do. We know he's been out there interviewing for other jobs, and he hasn't been hired. Who would hire him now after his tenure in Albany when crime has gotten worse?
Albany County Legislator Frank Mauriello joins us live here in WGY Morning. So what is the mayor's office saying? I'm pretty sure you saw this yesterday, but Kathy Sheehan's chief of staff was asked about you calling for Hawkins to step down, and his response was, Frank who? Because that kind of smug smarminess is what passes for leadership around these parts, apparently.
I love it because he was taken by surprise. He didn't know what to say. So his response was Frank who. So, Doug, if you have me on your show in the future, could you please refer to me now as Frank who? I love it. That's how I'm going to have people call me. But they have no answer. They have no answer, and that was the best he could do for a response.
Well, the problem is his boss. What has she said about the 15-year-old who got raped by the illegal and the fact that Albany's a sanctuary city and that she said we will always welcome immigrants, illegal immigrants and migrants to this area? Nowhere to be heard on that. What has she said about the Stewart's incident recently? What did she say about the shooting coming out of the probation office, which is the most ridiculous story I think any city could have? A kid coming out of a probation office gets a gun from another kid coming out of a probation office and shoots another kid coming out of the probation office. That happened in Albany. I mean, the sky is falling here. This is not good.
Yes, you can't make this up. You know, if Jerry Jennings was still mayor or even Erastus Corning, they would be down there at the scene, and they would stay there until things were cleaned up. You don't see her there at all. Not at all. She's disappeared. She's too busy going to Ukraine or going down to D.C. to go to the Democratic Mayor's Conference. Did you happen to see the selfie that was taken at that Stewart's on Delaware Avenue by our assembly member, one of our county legislators, and an Albany County council person? They all had smiles on their face. That's sad. That's really sad.
Yeah, you know, it was a year ago when we were talking to the Common Council, and they were talking about, listen, we want to have a thing where if there's a hot spot, then we'll get Albany Police to go patrol that area. All of Albany is a hot spot. It's on fire. It's burning out of control right now. Every day we're hearing a story more heinous than the last. When are people going to take the smiles off their face, smarten up, and get real and get serious about this?
You realize things would be worse in Albany if it wasn't for Sheriff Apple and his deputies patrolling the city. It'd be much worse.
Here's what gets me, though, and you know this full well, Frank. Sheriff Apple's one guy. Another guy is the Albany County District Attorney, David Soares, who's been talking about raise the age, for example. If you don't know the ages of the guys involved in that probation shooting, go take a look. He's been talking about it. He's been saying we got to get tough. We got to start doing something. So what happens? He gets primaried and he gets beat because that's where we're at here in Albany. Somehow Soares is the bad guy.
Oh, I know. And that's very unfortunate. So we lose a law and order DA for someone that is in favor of bail reform and raise the age. We're in trouble. We're in trouble not only in the city, but in the county as well. That's why even here in Colony, I'm very much concerned about what is going on in the city of Albany.
Frank, in the end, I guess my question, though, is like, you know, we can talk about Kathy Sheehan and her, what she's done and not done until we're blue in the face. If Hawkins was to resign and listen to you, doesn't she then get to pick who his replacement would be? So how would that be any better?
Well, hopefully the next person she picks will stand up to her and actually tell her what needs to be done, and she'll listen to that person. To be honest with you, she needs to go as well. She should resign also. There's no doubt about it. The two of them need to go, but it'd be more difficult to get her resigned because she's elected, so we're probably stuck with her for a while. But she needs to hire someone who's going to stand up. Do you remember during the riots back in 2020, Chief Hawkins is from Michigan. He was with his family in Michigan when the riots initially broke out in Albany. And did you see him on TV? He took a knee in sympathy to those protesters. That's a sign of weakness. You never see Sheriff Apple do anything like that. That's why he really needs to go.
Listen, we've talked about this with Biden, but do you think it's going to get better with him over time? I would ask the same here. Do you, for a different reason, but do you think it's going to get better with the people that have been in power right now? If not, why are we forced to play out the string and just let them stick around as long as they want? That's the question that people got to ask.
That's true. That's true. But you know what? We have to continue with the fight. We have to keep fighting. We have to bring this to the forefront and have people understand what the consequences are. That's why I'm being vocal about this. We need to speak up.
Listen, I always enjoy talking to you. I always hate that it's about things like this, but the good news is whenever I call, Frank Who is there to answer it.
Absolutely. That's my name.
Frank Who Mauriello. He is the Albany County Legislature, and I don't mean to make light of this in any way. Albany is in big trouble, and I ache for the city, and I ache for our region, and I know you do as well, Frank. I appreciate the time this morning.
Thank you very much.
His letter said, I'm old enough to remember a time when people used to look forward to going down there. Now they look for ways to avoid it. It's awful. It's Doug. You're listening to GY Mornings.